perhaps that... Hello, and welcome to the first season of DigiFox Studios' new original podcast series, The Blood-Drawn Chronicles. Brought to you in part by Cool Comics and Games, Lee County's largest comics and gaming store, and the generous contributions of audiences like you. Thank you. The Blood-Drawn Chronicles Season 1, The Manuscripts of a Vampire, stars Nelson Ventura as Myrick, son of Meyer, Alyssa Kalugden as Karina Gallo, Paul Roberts as Lord Dragon, and Sterling Torville as Lord Tyrus Godfrey. To view the full cast, crew credits, and more, please visit www.digifoxstudios.com/tbdc. On behalf of everyone here at DigiFox Studios, we want to thank you for listening, and now our story begins. If you're reading this, I bestow a word of caution to those faint of heart. This book contains a record of events that occurred, and acts which I've committed during my time in the world of man. I am Myrick, son of Meyer, and these are the manuscripts of a Vampire. March 6th, 1690. Besim raced out of the prison keep and firmly demanded I stop and tell him what Edmund had told me. He kept insisting I tell him whatever Edmund knew about the 7 children that went missing. It was at that moment I realized Besim's devotion toward finding those children outweighed his fear of returning to Castle Godfrey. Using that knowledge to my own gain, I told Besim the children were indeed inside the castle. Even though Edmund had technically never mentioned children, I knew they were there. Most importantly, I managed to deduce from his story the true intention behind their abduction. This is a matter I mean to withhold from Besim until the moment is proper. For now, I have allowed him the contentment of believing the children were unharmed. Unable to find his horse, thanks to my hunger, Besim commandeered 2 horses from a nearby stable. It seems that after I lied and told him Edmund had told me the children were safe in the castle, Besim was more anxious than I to head to Castle Godfrey. He was no longer held back by fear. Now, quite the opposite, he was fueled by determination. From one man to another, I admired his valor. Besim mounts his horse and instructs me to do the same with mine. In the time I have spent in this world, I have come to find horses to be quite delectable. Never did I think I would find myself actually riding one. Closely observing Besim, I found the mechanics of riding to be fairly simple. To move the horse forward, I merely give him a gentle kick on his sides. To stop him, I need only pull his head back. Turning left or right was only a matter of pointing his head in that direction. I found my first riding experience to be altogether intriguing. Naturally, when having to travel great distances, I fly. However, I find there's something absolutely enchanting about riding. It appears there's more to a horse than just feeding my hunger a month at a time. I was so entranced by riding this creature, I had not given notice to the fact that Besim and I had not spoken for nearly the past hour. Taking notice to our surroundings, and the overall change in Besim's demeanor, I suddenly realized we were en route on a mountain trail that undoubtedly led to the infamous Castle Godfrey. Besim pulls a silver necklace from under his shirt and begins caressing its ornament, a silver cross. I'm not sure how much further it will be until we reach the castle, but judging solely on Besim's attitude, it may not be much longer. He turns to me as to begin conversation.
Tell me, are you a religious man, Mr. Myrick?
No, I can't say that I am.
I see. It seems I had you figured all wrong. I thought for sure a man of your stature would give thanks to the Lord for his many talents.
I'm afraid I'm not quite sure what you mean, sir.
Come now, Mr. Myrick. There's no need to continue this game any longer. I was able to deduce when first meeting you who you really are. Your attire, your interest in Castle Godfrey, your insatiable obsession to remain mysterious and wander the night alone in order to find answers. You're a vampire hunter, aren't you, sir? Don't be so surprised, Mr. Myrick. Like I said, to a highly trained inspector like myself, uncovering your true intentions in this town was elementary.
Tell me, Besim, if you thought from the beginning I was a vampire hunter, why were you prepared to plunge a silver stake into my heart back at the prison keep?
One can never be too careful, especially when dealing with the undead. But I don't have to tell you that, do I, Mr. Myrick? Tell me, exactly how many vampires have you slain? You had to have killed hundreds of vampires already, haven't you, Mr. Myrick?
To date, a total of none.
You mean to tell me... Wait, no, of course. You're quite the character, Mr. Myrick. I must say, you almost had me there. But you see, a man who walks into a vampire's castle overconfident and ill-prepared is either a moron or insane, which you, my good sir, are neither. I've seen it in your eyes, yes. You're overwhelmingly confident, but you're no fool. You've come to Novi well prepared for the journey to Castle Godfrey, haven't you?
I knew at this point where Besim was drawing most of his courage. If it shall keep him headstrong and willing to keep forward, then so be it. My true intentions with Lord Godfrey do not concern him. For the sake of this journey, I shall masquerade myself to Besim as what he believes me to be, a vampire hunter.
So, Mr. Myrick, I ask you again, how many vampires would you say you've slain?
Too many to count.
I thought as much. There is still one thing that puzzles me, though. Who or what exactly brought you to Novi?
Lord Godfrey is a vampire. I'm a vampire hunter. It's as simple as that.
I meant who hired you.
The person who hired me wishes to remain anonymous.
Is that so? Yet another mystery for me to solve. Very well then, sir.
We rode a bit further before Besim stopped and dismounted his horse. He led him to an old tree where he properly secured him. I, of course, did the same with my horse. Strangely enough, this was the only tree I had seen the entire time on this mountain trail. If I didn't know any better, I'd say this tree was some sort of marker, as if to indicate that we've reached the halfway point toward our destination. As I finished securing my horse, Besim puts his hand on my shoulder. I turned to him to find he now wore a firm look of authority on his face.
Castle Godfrey is just beyond this corner. We must walk the rest of the way.
Would it not be faster to just take the horses?
There is a place for the horses to settle just outside the castle. The last time I was there, however, my horse started acting wild. I believe this was part of the reason Lord Godfrey was alerted to my whereabouts. I should very much like to have the element of surprise to my advantage this time around. Now come, Mr. Myrick. The sun is about to rise, and I'd very much like to be in and out of the castle before the sun sets.
As we advanced towards our destination, I gaze out into the sky and take in the full awe of the rising sun. Lacking the ability to sleep allows me the privilege of always witnessing a beautiful sunrise. Yet on this day, atop this mountain, the view is impeccable. It's as if the sun has risen, if only to bring life back to the town of Novi. As my eyes follow the sun's light as it sweeps over the night's shadow, as darkness fades, so does the mystery of Castle Godfrey. There it lies in front of me in the distance, yet with my sight I see it all too clearly. Its architecture does not match with any structure in Novi. A massive brick-laid structure, black in color, with an array of gargoyle statues in just about every corner. I find it quite an odd custom to adorn a castle's walls with these creatures. In my familiarity with gargoyles on my world, I know they are no god animal. The beasts exist only to hunt. They're savage, too difficult to contain, and furthermore so to domesticate. Still, I must say, here they do make an astonishing decor. As we advance further, I take notice to other notable features of the castle. The castle's double doors were filled with iron spikes from top to bottom, and had a gargoyle head on each door with a large ring in its mouth. Iron spikes also lined the top of the castle walls. At last I stood right outside the infamous Castle Godfrey. I turned to Besim, who appears to be headed toward the right side of the castle.
There's a small drainage hole on this side of the castle. The iron bars have rotted away, leaving a small entryway to the inside. It's big enough to crouch under and the only way inside this place. I'm sure you won't mind getting a little dirty, will you, Mr. Myrick?
No.
Very well then. Right this way.
I begin to follow Besim when all of a sudden my ears focus on a particular sound coming from the castle. I stop and begin to focus on what it is that I'm hearing. It's faint, but I can just make it out. It's music.
Oh, there you are. I was surprised when I turned and didn't see you behind me. What's got you all,
Shh!
What is it?
I think the lord of the castle knows we're here.
Nonsense. Vampires sleep during the day. Besides, how could he possibly know we're here? We left the horses behind. How? I don't Wait, hold on. Where are you going?
The castle doors have opened for a reason. We have been invited inside.
This is insane.
Be that as it may, I'm going inside. You're welcome to stay here if you'd like.
No. I'm coming with you.
Oh, very well, but keep quiet. I enter the castle, ignoring whether Besim follows me or not. As I pass through the main hall, I take notice to the large portraits hanging on the walls. Paintings of noblemen, each one resembling the other. Obviously, these were the previous Lord Godfreys. As I walk further through the hall, nearly reaching the end, I take notice to the last 3 paintings on the wall. They were left blank, but had the nobleman's name under them. The first blank painting had the name Oliver Godfrey. The next, Lionel Godfrey. And lastly, the final painting read Tyrus Godfrey. At that moment I realized the blank portraits signified the beginning of the vampire lineage of House Godfrey. It would seem, by my standards, Lord Godfrey's vampire lineage is rather young. I alone may be older than his grandfather. Perhaps what I was told of the great House Godfrey and their ancient legacy was a bit exaggerated. I forget that to a human, 100 years is ancient, but to me and my kind, 100 years is looked at as the equivalent of one. Perhaps then Lord Godfrey is too young to answer my questions. Time will tell if he is of any use to me. As I begin to wander further through the other halls of the castle, I once again begin to hear music playing. I turn to Besim, who appears to be lost in his own train of thought, and signal him to follow me closely. The song echoes through the hall. Where is the source of this music coming from? My mind begins to race in many directions as I hear the melody over and over. Why the music? Why play this song? How is this song being played? I now find myself in the center of the castle with so many doors, so many options. I cannot seem to pinpoint the exact location of the music's origin. Is this the reason behind the music in the first place? To drive me mad? Or maybe Lord Godfrey thinks we're prey, and this is how he plays with his food. I turn to Besim to find him casually walking towards the door in front of him. Does he now hear the song I do? I am lost as to the range of hearing humans possess. Yet Besim walks confidently towards the door, ignoring everything else, myself included. I race toward the door, beating him to it. I open it. It leads to a large hall where at the end, a man sits facing opposite to my direction. He stands from his chair and reveals a small wooden box placed in his right hand. He takes his left hand and closes it. The music stops. Still facing opposite to me, he turns his head slightly left.
Welcome to my castle, vampire.
It happened so quickly. I looked down to find the sharp end of Besim's silver stake has pierced through my chest. I turn and manage to muster my final words before I fall. Besim! Why?